You're listening to the Real Estate Radio Hour, the show that brings you unfiltered stories and insight from the Twin Cities real estate world with your hosts, Chris Rooney, broker at RE/MAX Preferred, and Andy Presky, leader of the Preferred Home Team at RE/MAX Advantage Plus.
What up?
Hola all.
Hola all.
Hola all. Andy's just back from a beach party. Can you tell he was at the beach?
Tan, red.
He got red.
That's stress.
Oh,
This market's stressing me out, boys.
how about this color?
That shows wisdom.
Yeah.
Come to think of it, Andy, you don't have many wrinkles. It's hard to tell. That's pretty good. You age good.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I got to turn the light down so you can't see anything.
Oh, okay, it's all about the lighting. I agree.
Yeah.
Hey, I got some interesting things coming up here. I'm gonna go do a little showing of an apartment near the beach here. It's a duplex. I think about 1,500 square feet, private pool, balconies. Price about 250 grand. So it's a little more spendy than I thought in this area. But I'm gonna need some information from you guys. You know, what should I all look for when looking at foreign properties? So we'll get into that later. What about you guys? You getting ready for July 4th?
Are you partying?
We try to sneak up to the lake. I know we kind of come and go. I know a lot of us have different schedules and crazy. You know, I have both my kids are nurses, so they have those crazy nursing schedules where 12 hours and then they'll do 2 days in a row and they get 3 days off. And so I know with that, and then we'll be up there for most of the week. I've got a couple meetings towards the end of next week that I couldn't get out of that I think including this show, but you guys are kind of slave drivers on that.
Has Hannah got a job?
Hannah's interning down at Children's Hospital. Yeah. She is so sweet. I go, what do you do all day? She goes, I get to hold little babies that need love. And I'm like, what a cool job for my kid, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And Connor's in Rochester still?
No, believe it or not, Connor's up at Abbott now too in the cardiac unit. So if you see a squirrely, high-strung guy running around that looks like me, that's my kid. Yeah. I'll tell you though, you're in no better hands than with that guy. He's got the knowledge base. I mean, I know he's going on to do other things other than the nursing. I maybe shouldn't say that, but I know that he currently he'll sit down and he knows how to read the charts. He knows how to understand all the reports that come back, and he loves it. So like, very passionate about it. And
that's cool. Why did you take this weird job, this job where no one works at, the real estate?
I don't, I was, my brother and I, Matt, I don't know if you guys have ever really met Matt, but those of us that know my family, my brother Matt is more of the studious, higher education, good time kind of guy where you'd think he'd have the job where it'd be like mine, where you'd have the real estate job or whatever. And instead, when I was younger, I actually through high school and college landscaped, I loved it. The physical labor, digging and smacking sledgehammers. I loved all of it. Right. So I for sure thought that was going to be my destiny, is going into some kind of a contractor trade or, that's why I'm not afraid to take on a project. I mean, I'm not afraid to build a deck, put in a fence, whatever, because when I was younger, that's what I did. So everybody thought Matt and I were going to have flip-flop jobs. Matt runs a big landscaping firm called Midwest Landscapes, and fantastic. I try not to give too big of a head, but I've toured their facilities out in Otsego. It's impressive. I mean, everything. There's trucks go here. This is the car wash bay. This is the truck wash bay. This is where all the plantings are. It's super organized, and it's actually, you get excited about landscaping, which is weird, but everybody thought we'd be flip-flop, but we're not.
I also think when I go in and see a business that's freaking totally like things are lined up and they take care of it, because then that way you feel like, geez, my project's going to look clean. Typically you find people that are in chaos, your house turns into chaos.
Yeah.
So, but
yeah,
hey,
I've learned that too in a short career here of only 20 some years.
Yeah.
Got to keep my office clean, keep my mind clean,
Yeah.
A quick thing for going into what's happening in the market. I want you to comment on this quick.
I don't know what you heard about me.
About 6% of us. That's fair.
I think there'll be more.
I'm surprised that doesn't have another 0 in front of it.
Yeah, what are we? We're almost at July. Yeah, I would think so too. I think this next by fall, I think we're going to see quite a few dropping.
Well, I'll tell you. I mean, I've been looking at the numbers. There's some of the biggest teams in the state of Minnesota. Their numbers are in half. I mean, it's
wow.
Oh yeah, it's so the volume is so much lower. Sale prices are still, for consumers, sale prices are still good, but there's just not enough inventory. It's like the factory's running at half speed, right? And it's like, I think inventory is up a little bit year over year from last year, but we're still at like less than half of what it was before the pandemic. So like we were way up here on the, actually, I probably have a chart for you.
Really?
Please stand by. Oh, weird. I have one, Chris. Here we go, everybody. So talking about like when we're way over here, this is pre-pandemic. So you've got, across the bottom here, these are all the years from, 17, 18, 19, 20, as we look at the inventory over here, like the amount of inventory. And then all of a sudden we're going across, pandemic hits, of course we go down, then we go up, and we're still hovering down here so low. And I think what's keeping it low is interest rates, right? So people are just like, they're very comfortable with their historically low locked interest rate that they've got. And they're in an affordable house that they paid for, that they have a lot of equity in, the payments are low, and it's just not giving anybody the motivation to say, let's go and jump on there. Now, on the other hand, I think there's a little game being played by builders too, where builders have the ability now, there's plenty of inventory, plenty of labor. They could be ramping up the inventory, but they're not. So they're keeping high prices on their what they do have for sale because there's not a lot of it, right? Scarcity creates demand, and that demand is just, or pricing,
I was just in a neighborhood of national builder, and what they were doing is they're not building the custom homes for people where they were taking orders all the time. They're building their specs and they're selling those. That's what's available. And then they'll bring the other ones available, which is really, quite interesting, but that's a way in which to control, maybe the fact that they're thinking, geez, things could get bad. Let's control what we've got and get rid of what we have. And
that might not be by choice, Chris. That might be because the banks who finance a lot of their projects are saying, we're good. Our threshold for pain right now is pretty low. So let's get you back on the balance side of the balance sheet. And
we were talking about what's happening in the market, and I don't know if you recall, but last week, or maybe it was the week before, I was mentioning that if your house doesn't sell in the first week, it's not all lost. So just went out last night and showed a house, and it had been on like 9 days, and we're kind of like, wow, there's no offers on it. It was just kind of surprising, and there's some reasons that I felt that they were not selling right away, and it was one of those houses that you have to think about. There's some things that weren't the greatest, other things that were super great. And so you have to just kind of get over it. Well, after those 9 days, now all of a sudden there's multiple offers. They're doing, highest and best coming up here before the weekend. But it's just like, it's crazy that, people think that, oh my gosh, if my house doesn't sell in 2 days, I'm done. And here's a great example of just being a little patient. Let people kind of think about it, because people are trained right now to be able to react and like, oh my gosh, it's going to sell right away. Oh, I don't want to get into multiples on this house. And then they start thinking about it and they're like, gosh, you know what? That house has a lot of things that I really want. And now I'm getting excited about it. Now all of a sudden, 2 or 3 people get excited about it again, and it goes up again. So,
well, Chris, it's interesting to say that because nationally, average days on market went from 30 days last year on average to 43. So we're up 13 days more. But here's what I wanted to show everybody again. Me and my charts, right? Take a look at this here. So this is our pricing chart, right? So we already kind of remember back here to June of last year. This was kind of the peak where we went up and we kind of peaked out. But here was May at 437. And now you come over to this side of the table and we're at 441. So in theory, we're still up from May over May of last year. And this is that dip everybody was talking about. And I think the big thing was, Chris, is that a lot of real estate experts went out there and stuck themselves out on a limb and said, hey, prices are going down. And it put a lot of pause in the market. A lot of people are like, I knew it was coming. Here it comes. And so a lot of people paused on selling their houses, buying their houses. And it actually helped amplify the problem because now you have pent up energy. We still have a good jobs market. And so what's happening is these people that have good jobs that still want houses, they're used to the rates. So now, even though they're hovering in the high 6s, low 7s, they're like, yeah, that is what it is. And they're putting offers in on properties. So if jobs go down, we might see a real interesting market, right? Where also you start seeing the prices soften or whatever. But for right now, the way we're sitting, everything is looking great.
Hey, I got some game-changing news for Minnesota. I think it's going to help out more of the rural properties, kind of outside the cities. So, especially with the remote work, I want to hear you guys' thoughts on this infrastructure.
Game-changing, wow.
Game changer, $650 million.
A game changer. Oh, broadband. It's we can't hear anything.
No, I'm not playing the video.
Oh.
Basically,
I was trying to be polite too.
You're getting all the internet speeds faster across the state, and how is this going to affect kind of outside the Twin Cities area and housing overall?
We've already seen it, Chris. I think last year. I haven't not this year as much, but last year I had 5 families that moved from Minneapolis up to northern Minnesota, where they were up in within 20 miles of like Brainerd, Walker. And they have high-speed internet. So they're working remotely, high speed from their rural properties with 5 acres, and they can live that lifestyle that maybe they grew up in. I think a lot of them grew up from smaller towns, moved to the city, were burnt out on the city life, and are like, hey, get me back out where I want to be, Yeah,
I think the question is more, are companies going to allow remote working? And if that's the case, why wouldn't people go there? If you're going an hour away outside the Twin Cities, you're going to get a house for probably half the price. Not quite, but
well, thank you for saying that, because to me now, if you're working remotely, what's the difference if you're working remotely or you work overseas? And if there's somebody overseas that'll work for $5 a day versus you're $1,000 or $500 a day or whatever your numbers are, right? At what point then do you outsource yourself overseas because you're just a computer screen filling in numbers or whatever? And I warn people about that all the time. I said, you're going to see this big shift in America because a lot of these people that are working remotely, you're the easiest ones to cut. You're the easiest ones to hire, the quickest ones to fire. You start hearing jobs now where people have 2 laptops going at one time. They're working for 2 companies at the same time, putting in 8 hours a day, earning 16 hours of pay. There's all kinds of crazy stuff that is brewing, and we're allowing it because I don't think these companies know how to correct but I wouldn't be shocked at all if eventually you go old school again and say, hey, yep, you got to be in the office here 5 days a week.
Yeah, Andy, that's not fair to millennials.
We got to probably hate to hurt all of them at one time, but
Nick's going to want a house now too, and sit on his little Airbnb wherever he's at.
With I'm assuming with the
tropical
best
country,
possible, of course.
The big difference though is the time zone, the be able to speak English and relationships 100%. I think definitely the government or someone's got to step in and say, hey, you can't just ship out all the jobs overseas, or maybe give tax benefits to employers.
But Nick, how do they know that they're not already overseas? Look at you. You could be working a job here in Minneapolis out of Brazil. What's the difference?
No, I'm saying like they need to start figuring that out before the companies just say, okay, screw the Americans. We don't need to pay them. Let's go pay the dude in Brazil and India and whatnot. So I don't know. I think tax benefits would be very ideal, especially for businesses in USA to still hire Americans, even if they're abroad. And then I know people who do like, hey, okay, you're going to live in this area. So obviously we're not going to pay you what we pay you in Minnesota. We're going to pay you this percentage of, what they kind of make down there or a little higher. So yeah, it's going to be interesting for sure. But I know everyone got a taste of the remote working, and not many want to go back to the office. So I think it's going to be quite a battle.
Why would you? I think we've created our own beast because you don't have to get dressed when you work from home unless you're on a Zoom call or something. But then you only have to do the upper half that's on camera. It's like there's a lot of benefits to it. There's a lot of you don't have to drive in and get stuck in traffic.
Yeah, commute.
Commuting is huge. But like I'm saying to you, if you don't talk to anybody all day long and all you do is grind out numbers and work on spreadsheets, I'm warning you that job can be, as long as somebody's capable of doing the same task, I mean, they're going to go to the lowest bidder.
Well, AI too, especially if you're not, that's going to take over a ton of it. But Andy, I got your main man, your partner in crime right here. Some people, they're talking about, is he delusional or not? Let me post it up here. Reddit.
Well, that's good. You're going to put me on the spot. That's great. Okay.
Ramsey said buyers shouldn't pay more than a quarter of the take-home pay on a 15-year mortgage. Now, keep in mind, a 15-year mortgage is a higher payment. This dude is so out of touch with reality. I'm surprised he has such a large base of followers. Who said this?
There's a huge Reddit thread. Like everyone was agreeing to that Ramsey is stuck in the past and that this does not apply to modern day, et cetera, et cetera. So I want to hear what you guys think, especially when buying.
I think what he's doing is instead of saying it's okay to be in third place, he's setting the bar up at first place. And so, if you want to be a winner, here's what you should do. You want to train for a marathon, here's what you should do. If you want to have financial success, here's what is a great path to follow to put yourself in a situation where you can succeed. And I think that's what they're saying is that if you have 15% of your gross income dedicated to a mortgage payment, and that's actually, I hate to say it, but it's pretty easy to do nowadays because with reality of people buying and selling houses and they have tons of equity that they didn't have before, they're buying down the next property that they buy. Most of the Ramsey followers, if you think about this, the goal is to be debt-free and not be literally a slave to the debt. That's the goal. And so if you actually look at what his message isn't like saying you're out of reality, you're not a good person. He's saying that, hey, you don't have to worry about a job that you hate if you don't have debt. You don't have to worry about a job that you hate or doing something you don't want to do if it doesn't align with your morals. For example, like school, a lot of these people that are in their programs they don't believe what some of these schools are teaching their children. So they make a plan to have one of the two spouses stay home and support the in-home education. There's a big push on a lot of that stuff now where they don't want the morals or the beliefs of other people trickling into the education system on top of just being financially free. I think that's the key. If you look at like the parts that I enjoy about the Ramsey following that I enjoy are when people come in and do their debt-free scream. So you're talking about people that literally couldn't do anything. They could hardly buy their groceries on Fridays. And then they get into their programs and they learn how to get out of that debt. And they still have good debt, but they don't have bad debt, right? So they get rid of the credit cards and the high interest paying stuff that you never catch up on. And then you get back into the point where you're debt free. And some of these stories will make you cry. I mean, you hear about these people that are $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 in debt. And then he helps them make their own decisions and saying, here's a goal for you. So that's, for an example, that might be one of the goals. And then you work towards getting there. They have what they call baby steps in this program. So you take baby steps towards getting there. But the idea there is that you're taking steps towards making yourself free and being in control of your finances. And it actually, anybody that doubts it, I recommend you look at it. So delusional is not an accurate statement at all.
Okay, I had to unmute myself.
Awkward pause. Thank you.
Unmute myself, yeah. But on the whole Ramsey situation, I think it's pretty simple to say, hey, you should only make a quarter of your take-home pay to do a 15-year mortgage. I mean, that's pretty. I mean, if that was the case, this economy would be destroyed right now. But is it a goal? It's a great goal. I mean, if you're able to do that and
Well,
whatever.
I
But a
don't
lot of
understand
people
the
have made money
context.
on real estate as well.
Like I'm saying, Chris, that's just he's not the statement's not being put into context of how it's being said.
Of course,
That's what I'm saying.
never
It's
is.
completely throwing this conversation the wrong way. It's like telling your kids they should save 15% of their income. Oh, what a absolute nut. How do you
Right.
save 15% of your income? Well, come
Right.
on. It's like when you go down to, if you can focus and have discipline, you have a job and you set yourself up to where you don't overspend, you show some discipline in how you take on debt and pay it off responsibly. That's all this program's about. That it really is in a nutshell. And I can't speak on their behalf. I'm not allowed to, nor would I. But I tell you what, they've helped more people than they've hurt.
Yeah, well, of course. I mean,
Millions of people have been helped. Ask anybody that's
But-
debt free from those guys that do their coaching and stuff like that. And I'm only passionately fighting this because I think the problem with our whole system we have, schools teach people how to be employees. These employees go out there and get jobs and they punch the clock, and then they let envy, like on Facebook and Instagram, really pile up. And then all these people go, I need a new boat too because they have a new boat and I deserve a new boat. And also they go and buy a new boat they can't afford. And then they buy a bigger house that they can't afford. And all of a sudden you have all this debt. And then what happens to you? You have to punch that clock pretty darn hard every Monday morning, or you're never going to get out of that mess, right? And we've also been taught that we have the pride of never having bad credit. So it's like we got to just, be these payment makers. Well, guess who gets rich off that? You want to talk about conspiracies? That's where the conspiracy is,
Yeah. Well, I mean, isn't he more referring to like the inflation and how expensive homes are now that it's very hard to put 1/4 of your income towards it? And like Chris was saying too, like if everyone did that, the whole economy would be destroyed because real estate is about leverage, isn't it?
Yeah, but if you actually put, like I said, put his phrase into context, he'll tell you that it's okay to get a 30-year mortgage if that's all that you can afford, right? But put as much money down as you can to avoid mortgage insurance. Then the next step is get into a 15-year mortgage. And then ideal situation, so that you're ready for any kind of a storm that comes at you, is to position yourself to where you only have 15% of your gross income going towards, like, for an example, a payment. It doesn't mean that that's the only way to do it. Don't buy a house unless you can do this. He says good debt is he's telling everybody to buy houses right now because he thinks houses are going to keep going up with the way that we're spending money as a country. He thinks, if you watch his stuff, he goes, these houses are on sale. They're going to keep going up. We're not going to, the world's not stopping. The world's not going backwards right now. So all the indicators are showing, but anyway, my point is that they basically help you with a guide. And I think that the guide is for a lot of people that aren't educated on what debt is, or that it's evil. You shouldn't be excited to have a credit card. You should be scared of it. I mean, I look at a lot of my business buddies and they say the best way to control your spending is to pay cash, right? So they go through and they pay cash for everything because they can control what they spend. A lot of people just whip out the credit card until they say it's full.
All right, let's get into a little
Sorry.
Andy Prasky segment. We'll keep you rolling. We're going to do a this or that on 2 lakes. So let me bring up your commercial, though. You know a lot about this area. Andy Prasky, preferred home team.
Well, they said I could have 30 seconds on the show for a quick ad. Andy Prasky, Remax Advantage Plus, Andy@Prasky.com if you want to email us. Here's the thing, 22 years in the business, over 1,400 sales. I'd like to help you with your real estate needs. If that's buying, if that's selling, if that's building, whatever it is, give us a call, send us an email. Let's get you started on your real estate journey. I'd like to help you on the way. Lots of experience here, and I would like to put it to work for you. Andy Prasky, Remax Advantage Plus. Thanks for listening to the show. Whoa.
You are amazing, Andy. Your car just flies.
I don't understand what I'm doing in that commercial.
You don't. You're telling people to use you. You're Andy Prasky. Oh
Yeah.
boy, what do we got here for a lake, Andy? Chisago Lakes or Ham Lake? Chisago. Isn't Chisago a lot? Isn't that a lot bigger lake than just Chisago?
Yeah, it actually, if you look at Chisago Lake is like basically Lindstrom area, if you really
Yeah.
look at it. They also have the Chisago Lakes area. A lot of people will buy up there in that area, and there is a Chisago Lake, but there's a ton of other lakes up in that area that are very popular. So when you look at, like, for example, Chisago Lake, and it's a chain of, I think, 3, 4 lakes here together. And it's nice. It's a little, not as quite as deep, in some areas. So the water's a little cloudier, but it's not as, I don't know. They're nice. It's very nice. It's close
It's
to the city,
really,
great commute.
and it's really not that far out either.
No, no, I build houses up there, sell houses in Chisago Lake all the time. So it's kind of, if you think about it, being a little north of like Forest Lake there. So,
What would you say from a lake cabin or decent house price points where they are up there?
well, boy, I tell you, just like everything else around here, I mean, you're seeing houses that are creeping up into the millions up there, but it's like, you also have, you could still buy that, $350,000 cabin that somebody had way back in the day that now you could, enjoy in the summer, and then, probably fix it up or possibly replace it with a new house and retire. You're still close to everything though. Chisago is like right off of 35. So it's like it's right there. All the modern amenities in Forest Lake are all right there. Great pocket. I mean, and it actually kind of, I don't know, Chris, if you've been up to Lindstrom, has a real vacation-y vibe to it. It's like you pull into town and it's very what is it? The Norwegian kind of Swedish kind of vibe to it. And the bakeries you feel like you're on vacation kind of when you pull into town, you know. You're muted, Chris.
I built this. My mouse is being kind of fidgety,
Yeah.
but I showed a house up there in Lindstrom, and it was an acreage parcel that the Amish had built one of the pole buildings there, and it was like 80 by 140. It was the freaking coolest thing ever. I mean, the way they build stuff, I mean, it's like that thing will never come down.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I was surprised that it was as close as it was to the Twin Cities. I don't really work that area that much. My
Yeah,
brother-in-law
if you take
Bruce.
the exit that goes to Taylor's Falls, I think that's the easiest way to describe it. You take 8, I think it is. Take the Taylor's Falls exit, like you're going out to Wild Mountain or whatever, or Turtle Lake or wherever you're headed,
Yeah,
and you drive right through Lindstrom, and that's kind of that general area.
yeah.
Um,
My brother-in-law is a realtor, Bruce Sedova, and that's where he's from. So anytime we have stuff up there, he takes over
yeah,
for us. Just because you gotta know that area, the knowledge of the area to know what you're getting. Because for what the price of this was, I mean, in Credit River, someone would have paid 1.8 million, and it was a million up there. I mean,
yeah.
it was that big of a difference. But they have more of them up there than what we have here. So
Right, right. Yeah, no, and it is. It's a very. I actually think it's a kind of a sleeper community right now. It's like even that Forest Lake area. You have those. The 3 lakes in Forest Lake there too, and you have houses that are up to $6 million on that chain. And to get on that chain is very hard under 500,000, even for a teardown. And you get up to Chisago, you can still save and be in the threes. So it's a little more affordable,
wow.
but when you build, I'm telling you, that's the zinger right now, is like the fantasy of buying a lot and building a house is where a lot of people, including myself, there's a little bit of delusion there. Like, I'll just build a $300,000 house. Well, you sit down with most builders, they don't have anything under $500,000. So now you're committed to building an $800 to $1 million investment, which is fine. If you've got the budget, God bless you, let's do it. But a lot of people are trying to get the whole thing done for $500,000, and it just the money's not there. Then you got to look for existing. So that's where I see a lot of value. So if you were looking at existing homes, Chisago Lakes is the place. So
Yeah. I think sometimes when people are looking for something affordable from an affordable cabin, I think you also have to kind of take into consideration how long it takes to be able to get there. And that might be a
yeah,
good spot, that Chisago Lake area, to kind of be able to get that. Geez, maybe I'm going to pay a couple 100,000 more, but I'm going to use it a lot more. It's that
Right.
Wednesday when I want to. I've got 3 hours to kind of kill. I can go up and mow the lawn real fast.
Yep.
But what about Ham Lake?
So Ham Lake is actually a very small lake. When you look at like I think of Ham Lake as being kind of like your Credit River down south, where you have beautiful acreage and really nice houses. It's kind of like the East Andover. If you're looking for a few acres to build a beautiful house, Ham Lake is the spot to look for. Beautiful homes up there being built. So the lake itself is actually a very small little circle. A couple years ago, a friend of mine developed some lots on the north end of that lake. And they had lake lots for 300,000. So it was, and Ham Lake literally, Chris, is shaped like a ham. That's why they call it Ham Lake. It's
Really?
it's a little round little ham with a little island in the middle. It looks like the bone. And it's kind of
Wow.
cute. But it's not much of a when you think of like a lake, that when you say Ham Lake, I don't think of water. I think of like acreage, up there. But the lake is a small little. Get a pontoon, takes you 20 minutes to go around it, probably.
Okay. So small lake, yeah.
Very small, yeah.
What would you pick?
Oh, Chisago Lakes, hands down. For lake like living. Chisago is going to give you that multiple lakes to pick from, fishing, skiing, all that fun stuff that, I see, but I'm a recreational lake guy. So
Right.
I like the toys and the fun and hey, let's, go to town by boat and go to the restaurant or whatever. I love that. So Chisago Lake would probably be my choice for water. As far as for return on investment and building a beautiful house on acreage, Ham Lake's a shining star there too. Chisago has a lot of areas up there too, that kind of around there that are Lint Township and some of those areas that are really nice that have, more acreage available. But I'd go Ham Lake for the big fancy house with the big garage. And I'd go Chisago Lakes for living on the lake, fishing and enjoying recreational.
Very, very good, Andrew.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Now the second half of the show will be all Chris.
Yeah.
I feel like I've done all the talking.
That's all right. Well, I know the guy who's got this one listed.
Yeah, hold on. Yeah, we're going to go over this iconic property. It's going to be brought to you by Mr. Chris Rooney, Home Experts. We even got a video to watch. So
I was just 1 year old when my family started in real estate, where both my parents were agents. They also dabbled in investing in real estate, rentals, flips, and construction. After college, I went right into getting my license in July of 1990. As a 23-year-old agent in an industry that looks nothing like today, I had to know more for my clients to choose me. There wasn't Zillow or social media to tell them how good I was. I had to win them over with knowledge. With knowledge comes confidence, and with confidence comes results.
Well, it is one of the most expensive homes to ever go up for sale in the entire state of Minnesota. Right on the shores of Wayzata Bay, it is now looking for its next owner. And Adam Duxter is getting an exclusive tour and peek inside of a home that you will only see on WCCO.
Whether you're playing in it or playing on it, the draw to Wayzata Bay is the water. If you want to get a home here, you got to make a splash.
When I bring friends into Wayzata or out on the lake, they're like, wow, who lives there? What do they do?
But for a house like this to hit the market,
the word wow happens quite often when I show the home.
Well, that is making waves.
Everybody's curious, which is not a surprise, not a shock. Everybody wants to come in and take a look and see an almost $15 million house, which is understandable.
Jim Schwartz helped make this waterfront home a reality when his clients built it in 2016.
Obviously, you start with the view, but
5 bedrooms, 7 bathrooms in 7 years later. Those same clients are looking to sell. Price tag, $14.75 million.
It's gotten to a point where kids are getting older and kids are gone. And so now they're just looking to downsize and move on. And so as you walk in, you've got his and her closets.
Thursday, Schwartz opened the door, showing everything from the custom living space.
It's a fun level.
To the theater and golf simulator.
Right. So that'll close.
Even the elevator. He says he's on a global search for the right executive or entrepreneur who could be the buyer.
If they're interested, my information is everywhere. So
the only contingency.
I hope whoever buys it really enjoys it And if they ever throw a party, I'd love to go.
Adam Duxter, WCCO News.
Did you see that first clip they showed of the house where they showed the chipping paint on the chimneys?
Oh, really?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I would have had that immediately cut.
Doctored up.
They were showing the two chimneys and they showed the boat going by in between them. And there's chipping paint up there.
Got total realtor right there.
Wasn't that the guys that own Crave that own that?
What's that? I think that was no. This is in Wayzata Bay. I don't know who owns it. Yeah, but gosh,
I thought it was the guys that owned Crave. No,
I don't think so. That's the one over by Excelsior, I believe. But it's
real. A lot of sushi rolls to afford that place.
Yeah, it's a fun spot. I mean, it's a peninsula, and then kind of between like Grays Bay coming into Wayzata Bay. It's what you see. I tell you, I was hoping they would do a shot of how those garages work, because they kind of come in underneath. I was just kind of curious about that. But
I believe I've heard the same thing where you go down and it has a turnaround and like a 16 car underground parking garage.
Okay. Yeah, because I think that would be super cool and how it's kind of set up there. But Jim Schwartz, he's a good guy. I've done some deals with him, and
cool.
He's a good guy. He's a good marketer. Does really well.
Sure. Yeah. Well, you got WCCO's attention.
Yeah. Yeah. And those are the kind that you go out and hunt for that and try to get someone to do a story on it. And they're not going to not do it. But what a great way in which to be able to market. And because a lot of people that buy those types of homes want something that everyone else wants. You know, like that gal said at downtown Wayzata there. You know, everyone asks, well, who lives there and who would have that? And oh my gosh, I want to go to one of their parties. And
yeah,
but that Lake Minnetonka is full of that. It's a very interesting. That's not even close to the biggest house either. Not even close.
No, I know our old buddy Marty Davis built quite a shack out there a couple of years ago.
Yeah, and his two brothers. There's three of them that are unbelievable.
Yeah, well, they did some nice, did some smart business moves.
Yeah, they're fine. So
they're not struggling to make the tax payments. Probably within 15% of their 15% mortgage, 15-year. There's probably no mortgage.
There's properties that have $300,000 property tax bills out there.
Yeah.
So
isn't that crazy?
Imagine that. Yeah, just the property taxes.
Well, it's all relative. I mean, just like they always talk about that. It's crazy to me. There are people that you think you're successful, and then there's a whole different level of success that's up there.
Yeah, that's big money.
Yeah. Well, good luck to those guys. I hope they have some success and find a new buyer and make a family really happy.
Yeah, there you go.
How do you go about getting that WCCO spot? You just go reach out to them?
You write an article. Yeah, I've done those things before too. In my old days, I used to work hard at that, getting these PR releases. That's how I got on the news a couple times. You write an article about something that's interesting. If they decide to pick it up, and they'll make you the lead on the story, and then you give them all. You make their job easy. You kind of in the say, here's where we can shoot it. Here's what we can cover. Here's how long the thing could be. And some of those news companies are craving stuff like that.
Yeah, and there's some area that you won't let them film. I mean, you set it up strategically at the beginning, because it's kind of like, I mean, in that a person wants to have that home because they want everyone to know that they have it. They also don't want everyone to have been in their home. It's because that,
right.
So now all of a sudden, if that film crew comes in and they completely go through the whole thing, it's not as exciting. So you got to be careful with that.
Yeah. Well, I think you're onto something there. And I think that, think about the media, they're looking for clicks. They're looking for views. So if that's something that you'd be like, you're making dinner and you're like, oh, I was going to shut the TV off. You're like, oh, I want to see that house. Those are the kind of stories that those companies or the news media will pick up.
Yeah. Nope. Fun.
Yeah.
Breaking news. White is out and wood is back in. We are seeing this become one of the biggest trends in 2023. People want natural wood looks in their kitchens and bathrooms, and we're really seeing this make a huge resurgence right now, adding value to people's homes.
Not totally. I think a combination is what people want.
Well, you know what a lot of it was, Chris, and I'm just, not that I was picking on the national builders, but these Wall Street builders come into town and they want to offer a really nice looking house at a better price. And a lot of that's MDF, so these guys were making, a lot of these cabinets that are not necessarily real wood. They're made out of wood, but they're not like an actual wood door, like you see when you have like a natural stained cabinet. And, they go to white. And a lot of times, like the high end, like you're talking about, they're enameling or urethaning that white. So it's beautiful finish, like, hard as nails, so it doesn't chip. And that's where I think a lot of people got confused for a while. So the white trend really came in and pushed out a lot of the local cabinet guys. I mean, when we used to sit down, you remember this, Chris, early 2000s, you'd sit down and we'd say, okay, well, what kind of species of wood do you want for your trim? What species of wood on top of the color, and nowadays it's just like, is it wood or is it white?
Yeah.
And here's your 5 colors. So.
Yeah. But I do think there's a lot of wood that is coming back, but I think it's just more of a mix rather than all wood or all enamel. So,
yeah.
And it looks good. It really does. And with metal and black as well.
Yeah.
You add all those things together. It just kind of, and it goes together. So,
yeah.
Yes. Hey, life changes. You got to keep up with it. I think that's a good thing. I think if it was the same and everything was kind of boring and it just, I don't know. I think that waking up and just waiting to die is no fun. That's my opinion. Change it up. Let's put some curveballs in it and you get to deal with some adversity. I like that.
That's right.
Oh, wow. Maybe there's gang activity here. That's crazy.
Set that up, Andy.
There's your video walkthrough.
I think that's kind of funny myself. It is, but it does tell you how quick an outside, you can have the perfect house on the perfect lot. And if you're not in the good area, down the tubes. Maybe.
I know a lot of people don't know what to do, but when you have a neighborhood, you need to stick up and defend your neighborhood for sure, because all of a sudden it becomes, that, label, and you don't have a choice. People do it for you and they'll say it's not safe or it's, there's whatever going, and then all of a sudden properties are hard to sell, values, soften, and all of a sudden you have a place that nobody wants to live. So people want you to stick up for yourselves. People want you to, fight to keep your neighborhood nice.
I don't know if you've heard that old saying, location, location, location. It's very important where it does. And it's the same thing with a urban place or a rural place.
For sure.
It depends where you put it. I mean, could be $1 million difference because of it. So.
Right.
Right. Oh boy, I just bought a house with my girlfriend, closed last month. We share ownership, although I make at least 2/3 of the household income. We're now separated and will not be getting back together. Both still living in the home. What do we do with the house? We bought it for $390,000 and put 5% down. How much do we need to sell it for and not be losing money with all the associated fees, etc.? Or are there other creative ideas? Not in search of a relationship advice. LOL. Well, I think that is something to learn from this story. If you're going to go into ownership with someone that the courts won't make the decision what you do with it, you should have some sort of an agreement together prior to that and state exactly what you're going to do if it doesn't work out and who's going to take it and who's going to pay it off.
And any business arrangement of any kind, have an exit strategy on the front end that you both agree to. Then it's simple and it's easy. You follow the rules. You can be amicable. And for an example, like you both still live there. Well, because it's not easy to find a place to live while you're still paying your mortgage. The thing is that first of all, how much do we have to sell for to get out of it? Well, that's not the right approach to it. I would say, what's it worth? So first of all, you're gonna have to look at, is it worth more? I'm assuming it is. We would, figure what the actual market value is for that home to get you the best terms, the best conditions, the best price. Now, on the other hand, what if it's not worth what it was when you bought it? What if you're in an area where all of a sudden the houses are slowly declining, which I'd find hard to find in today's market. But if it was, then you have to come up with alternatives. Like, what are you going to do? Are you going to split the debt? Or when you sell the property, are you going to try to sell it yourselves? What are you going to do to get out of that mess? But the first thing I would do is I don't know if you agree with this, Chris, maybe start with having an agent or two come out there, give you an estimated evaluation of the property values. So you have at least one or two to compare from. If you're broken up, but you're amicable with each other, that is a big step forward. But if you're not, then just say, hey, why don't we both have a real estate agent come out for both of us, so we can, and then let's compare notes on who has the best, and then maybe even bring in a third person that's independent, that can help you guys establish a value. Decide, do you have the skill set to sell it yourselves to save the money, because maybe you have to, or can you afford to sell it with an agent, or do you both want an agent to sell it? Yeah. Because that might add to the stress. If you're both trying to break up and one of you is trying to sell it, and then one of you thinks that they did more of the selling than you did, and it can create another fight. So, maybe it is an agreement that you make that we both agree to hire a professional to sell it. And that's a start.
That, I think, Andy, you hit on all of that stuff perfectly. If we had to go to that person and tell them, though, hey, what is it going to take? You're probably at 425 to try to get out of there unscuffed, we'll say. But I think there's other ways in which to do it. I mean, talk to each other. One or the other want to do it, and then just basically you could quick claim your interest over. If there's a problem with the mortgage, then if you're both on the mortgage and your name's on it, it's going to hurt you for qualifying later. If the person who you quit claimed your interest, which basically means, hey, it's yours, it's not mine, it's all yours, but that mortgage goes bad or they make missed payments on that, it's going to affect your credit rating. So sometimes, even if it's worth $400 and it's going to cost you $15,000 to get out of, it's worth it paying the $15,000 and chalk it up to, I should have had an agreement before I got into this place. And the first thing.
Well, and it is unromantic to say, hey, if we ever break up, what are we going to do? But on the other hand, blame your parents or blame, your brother or sister.
Your realtor.
Say, hey, they told me that we should really have an exit strategy here.
Your realtor should be bringing that up. I bring it up every time. I said, yeah, we know
what if one of the two of them passes away?
Yeah.
Then what is the, then what?
You got
Does
it.
the other one just get it?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. It's just a good conversation to have. And for someone else to be able to bring it up. I had that one time where the client asked me to bring it up, and I did, so, but it was this was a case of the one person was doing all the buying, but this person was going to be in on it. And I said, you just want to make sure that they know exactly, because it was she was actually going to give some money towards the down payment. So,
yeah. And I mean, and there's lots of ways for them to protect their interest in that property. They can file a lien against that property for the amount that they deposited, for an example. But that gets dangerous too, because if in the future you break up and they want their money back and they start foreclosing on you to get their money back out, versus, I had one of my clients in the past made the honest mistake of saying, well, you put a deposit on the house too. We're in a relationship. You put 20,000 down. Let's put you on the deed. And then when they broke up, he was on vacation and got locked out of the house, and then never was allowed back into the house that he had in his name, and actually originally, and had the mortgage on the property. But because she was on the deed, she was allowed to lock him out of the house, and, and said she had equitable title and blah, blah, blah. And it was a fight, and you can't just kick people out. So be very careful when you sign things.
Yeah. We had that same thing, actually, Chris and I did when we bought our first house together. I had owned a house prior to that, got the money out of it, very little money. She had a lot of money. We both qualified for it, but we never signed anything. Obviously, we ended up getting married. We're still married, but that it can cause a problem. So it's just best to get past the old, oh my gosh, you don't trust me, we're not going to get married. Are you cheating on me? What are you doing? No, don't forget that. Just have it set up that you know exactly what's going to happen, and because you don't, and then, like Andy said, the one thing that they don't think about is what if one of them passes away prior to that happening? You know, what is going to happen? Because that's a horrible thing if you're counting on someone else to be able to pay for half of it, and now you got to deal with all their heirs. You know.
Well, and so there's something to be said for that. So I've had in the past where we had business relationship kind of in where they had to have a life insurance policy, each one of them, to help offset if they passed away for the other partner. So that, all of a sudden, partner A is alive, partner B passes away, partner B's insurance policy pays off the mortgage for partner A, and they can live their happily ever after. Now, a lot of people get upset about that, but the whole point of it is that you can have an arrangement that doesn't have to be morbid. It can actually be very positive for both parties. You don't want to make it too positive, Chris, because then you might end up. That's
what I was gonna say. Maybe it's an insurance policy for $25,000 or something. Just so there's not a lot of incentive to kind of push her off the edge.
Yeah.
So, oh my gosh, what happened? She drowned.
We were in the Grand Canyon and she jumped. I don't know.
It happened. Can't believe it.
Yeah, she tripped.
Yeah, totally tripped. I told her not to jog. That exercise thing is so overrated. No,
it's not even funny.
For my help, and then also for clients that are thinking about retiring out of the country, what is a foreign property checklist to go over? What kind of questions should be asked, and what information do you guys need?
But I'll tell you one thing, Nick. I would 100% try to figure out what the process is first. To me, the process is, do they mortgage things there? What are the expenses that we don't know from the United States? So trying to be able to say, hey, give me a comparison. What happens in the U.S. versus here? So you can get some information from, back home, because more than likely you're going to probably work with a realtor or a person that doesn't really speak the same language, that might not speak the same lingo. Meaning what they might think of mortgages and what we think of mortgages are two different things. I had clients from Australia, and when we were talking, they were talking about, I can't remember what it was, but it was like something totally different how we would use that word than how they would use that word. And then we finally got kind of on the same page when I talked to the realtor they were using. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's what it's like, because he had dealt with that quite a few times. So I think that's number one. So you can kind of get on the page. Then you can start thinking of other questions.
I would look at how you going on the deed. Are you allowed to have a fee simple deed where you actually own it? It's protected, it's insured, so that just because you're from another country, it can't be taken away from you. A lot of these countries now don't want a bunch of foreign owners, which is funny because America, as we have all these, big corporations from other countries buying farmland and everything else around us. America doesn't seem to care as much as other countries do. Other countries want to be owned by their own citizens, and so they limit the amount of foreign owners that there are. So that being the case, anyway, that's kind of my little bit of. So talk to an attorney locally, and maybe you're okay with a 100-year lease or something like that, because you're not going to see the end of the lease. Maybe your kids will, but what's that worth to you and your family over the next couple of years? Is there any way for people to extract or take the deed away from you? And all of a sudden they own it because you didn't pay your property taxes in 2 days. And, there's some weird stuff out there, Nick.
Andy, you said you talked about this probably 10 years ago on this exact same thing. And I was really like, oh my gosh, yeah, I never really thought of that. But now all of a sudden on the political circuit, Nikki Haley just came out and said that she wants any land owned by China to be taken back. So can that happen in another country? Do you own it under your own yourself, or do you buy it under a corporation? I think there's a lot of little pieces that, someone that I would try to find someone that knows Brazil, if it's Brazil that you're going, Brazil and America together, because I think that's super important to know, what you're getting into, because you could be throwing a bunch of money into something that they could maybe take away from you, and there's land leases. Some we own the land and we own the house. There's some places that you don't get that. And then at that point, how do you finance? Are the banks in Brazil willing to finance you? Are people in America, or do you got to pay cash?
No, it's definitely, it's not as easy as I just want to buy, because the rules aren't the same in every country. And so for sure, I always say too, Nick, take a little history lesson from somebody that's been around a while. Sit down with that older real estate agent, let them tell you the story about what's happened over the years, what they did, what's happened in the past, how did they hurt people, help people, because you see like a lot of countries like Belize now, where they're advertising to the US saying, hey, bring your foreign dollars here. We have a much, no tax. We have this, we have that. I mean, there's all these benefits that they're trying to allure you to bring your money in. And of course, that's the landowner that's selling their land that wants you to come in and pay an absorbent price for it. And that's okay. That's capitalism. But
yeah, I think the biggest key, because like in Mexico too, you can't own the land. It's a 100-year lease. In Thailand, you can't. It has to be in a condo, an apartment, or in someone else's name, a Thai citizen's name. But there's a lot of programs now in some countries where, okay, you get permanent residency, and then after 3-5 years, you get the passport. And I think you, obviously, when you have the passport, you have the same rights as citizens here. So for sure, you got to look at what country and what kind of shenanigans are going on, because like you said, it's happened in Mexico, in Tulum. I heard that from when I was in Mexico, that a bunch of French people bought land and built hotels, and it was going so good. And then the cartels came in there and took it away. Like the whole governments were going at each other because of it too. And I don't think the French people got their money back.
Well, a lot of those big oil companies too, that had oil rigs and everything else, got that out.
Venezuela, they nationalized everything. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. I mean, that's their prerogative as a country, and they make decisions that will affect how money flows in and out of their country. And I understand that. I mean, it's just a matter of like you're looking for an investment opportunity, a place to live, a place to maybe have a family, whatever. I mean, it's like, and that is just doing your homework is a big part of it. Understanding that, when you hire a local attorney, some of those attorneys aren't, make sure that some countries you can just call yourself an attorney. Like in India, I guess you can call yourself a doctor because you're really good at like helping people not be sick. But you don't have to have the credentials. You don't have to have the education. So like there's a lot of these, make sure that when they say they're an attorney, that they actually are an attorney, whatever that means, or a specialist. But anyway, I would start with, and I'm not trying to be brand specific. Where's my brand over here? But I would start with a RE/MAX agent in those countries that'll tell you the entire story, tell you about who to talk to, who not to talk to, and that's something that is one of the advantage. Not to be a RE/MAX commercial, but that's what I would do personally. And I would talk to a couple agents and see which one I felt most comfortable with, who told you the consistent story. That's right. Start.
Yep.
Good stuff. All right, let's do a little rapid fire. Got some questions here. And let me get our little video.
Odd question. Since there is a housing shortage, why are we not building large amounts of smaller homes? Chris?
Because the land, should the landowners sell it for cheaper, their land, so we can make smaller houses? That's the problem. There's just, and can the lumber companies reduce their lumber costs? And can people do lower labor? Because that's the only way you're going to get it, and it's not happening.
Well, and I'll tell you this. The other thing is that I've got a couple builders that build in Minnesota and they build in Wisconsin. They claim that with the difference in the fees and the building codes, they can build on about a 3,000 square foot 2-story. They can build it 40,000 cheaper in Wisconsin than they can in Minneapolis.
Because of the freaking bureaucracy crap.
The fees, the extra building codes, the fire tapings, all the other, and they may be for good reason that they are, obviously they're enforcing it for safety, a lot of it, but the permitting fees, I mean, I don't think most people realize like the water and sewer connections, when a developer comes in and pays transportation connection fees, pays, all these, road and park dedication and trail dedication fees, all these dollars to these big cities, right, as they're developing. And then the cities go as far as when the builders pull the permits to have the water connection fees, the sewer. I mean, some of these cities, Chris, are $18,000 just to connect the water and the sewer. It's a fee. It has nothing to do with the cost of actually hooking it up. So it's like, then you have to hook it up. And it's like, you start looking at that kind of stuff, and it's crazy to me. And it's like, so there's a lot of these local municipalities and counties and Met councils and all these other things that they're adding to the cost of, when they say we want things, that's usually they're the ones complaining that there's nothing that's affordable. They give you the illusion that it's the landowner, it's the builder that's being piggy. Hell, a lot of that is upfront is the city fees, whacks and sacks and counties. And if they backed out all their fatty garbage fees, you could probably build a house for $25,000 less.
Exactly, Andy. And it's like, oh, we'll give you this land, but we're going to charge you on the backside. It's just a way of moving the money around so you don't know who the heck is, who's the bad boy here. It's wrong.
Well, and it's real simple. I mean, you do the math on it. It's like you kind of have a situation where you take an acre of land, and let's say you can get 2 lots per acre because of roads and everything else, and they'll be under a half-acre lot. You pay $50,000 for that piece of that 1 acre, and now you bought 100 acres, but in theory, right? And because there's going to be waste factors in there. So you have $25,000 raw cost for that dirt. And then you have about a $45,000 to $50,000 to $70,000. When we did some stuff in Plymouth, it was almost $80,000, guys, to improve those lots, cost of dirt and connection fees and whatever else. So now your raw costs are anywhere from $100,000 to $110,000. Plus, then you have to have, your financing, unless you're paying cash, but then there's opportunity money there, and you have to have profit. So all of a sudden you have lots that are 160, 170, 200,000 without even blinking an eye. And I tell you, they don't sell land in Plymouth for $50,000 an acre. It's probably $300,000 an acre. So, I mean, now you amplify that on top of it. That's why houses are $1 million in Plymouth. Yeah. It's just real simple. So it's like, I don't know. I don't want to sound like a complainer, but it's just, there's a lot of people that could step out of the way and make the costs become more affordable. And anyway.
Yeah. Do you encourage paying your mortgage bi-monthly? It's great if you can. Just make sure that the mortgage company is willing to take it and how they're willing to take it, because you got to make sure you do that, because sometimes when you're making these payments or extra payments, it's just going to go towards your escrow account. So make sure that your mortgage company is going to allow that. And it's good to be able to ask the process before it even happens, not after the fact. I mean, obviously a lot of people are in it, but the whole idea is making that bi-weekly payment. You're making 1 extra payment a year.
And think about this, Chris. A lot of these banks now, when you set that up, charge you so many fees, it's not even worth doing. So, because they have an administrator, somebody administratively has to process that now twice. So your account costs them twice as much a month to have versus somebody pays once a month, because they have to touch your stuff twice a month. And so they will charge you more for it. So you just have to do the math and say, hey, is it worth doing? Or do I just, at the end of the month, when I pay the 1 payment, add an extra principal reduction with that payment? And that's sometimes going to achieve the same thing and save you the fees.
Yeah.
Unreal. All this information, very valuable. Make sure to give us a like, share with some friends, subscribe to the YouTube, and buy, sell houses with us. We'll see you next week. Ciao, ciao.
See ya.
Where's this outro? Hold on.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Real Estate Radio Hour. Don't forget to visit our website, realestateradiohour.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, or your preferred podcast listening app. If you enjoyed today's episode, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes or sharing us with a friend. Until next time, stay awesome, Twin Cities.